Introduction. Beyond Western Science. When some people think of the origins of science, their minds focus on the clinical brilliance of high-tech laboratories, the polished lenses of massive telescopes, or the canonical names of the Renaissance: Isaac Newton, Nicolaus Copernicus, and Galileo Galilei. There is a comfort in this narrative, a story of an awakening that took place in Europe and roused humanity from the slumber of the Middle Ages. However, in the fine details of history lies a quieter, deeper truth. A truth that the Western narrative often cannot simply explain. Centuries before the foundations of the modern scientific method were formally processed in Europe, a lone man rising from the yellow sands of Mesopotamia fundamentally changed the way humanity pursues truth. He did not just investigate light, he questioned the very structure of how reality is perceived. If you look at the world we live in today, the world of cameras, fiber optics, and meticulous data, you will realize that he understood us far more than we understood him. Welcome to the history of a genius. Welcome to the meeting point of reality, perception, and knowledge. Welcome to the place where nothing is as ordinary as it seems. The year 1000, an intellectual star. To understand Ibn al-Haytham, known in the West as Al-Hazan, you must explore a world that is both familiar and foreign. The year is approximately 1000. While Europe was intellectually divided and politically isolated, the Islamic world was the focal point of an unparalleled explosion of knowledge. This was the Islamic Golden Age, where the pursuit of ilm, knowledge, was considered a divine responsibility. From the bustling markets of Basra to the lavish libraries of Baghdad and the soaring minarets of Cairo, the air was filled with the scent of old parchments and the passion for discovery. These were not just cities, they were research centers for the human spirit. The translation movement had unified the wisdom of the Greeks, the mathematics of India, and the astronomy of Persia into a single common language, Arabic. For the first time in human history, knowledge had truly become universal. It was in this environment that a man born in 965 A.D. in Basra began his odyssey. Ibn al-Haytham was not just a mathematician, physicist, or philosopher. He was a mind obsessed with what is true. He was not interested in cheap answers. He craved the truth itself. The Great Delusion, waging war on ancient sages. For over 1,000 years, the world's greatest minds, including Ptolemy and Euclid, followed the path of the emission theory of vision. They taught that the human eye was like a lantern, emitting sight rays that touched objects and redirected information back to the brain. We thought our eyes illuminated the world. This was a delicate theory supported by the most learned authorities of antiquity. It felt intuitive. But Ibn al-Haytham saw an error. He asked a simple but devastating question. If our eyes emit light, why does looking at the sun hurt, and why can't we see in the dark? This was the beginning of a revolution. He realized that those considered authorities were wrong. But he knew that to overthrow a 1,000-year-old belief, he needed more than just a better idea. He needed a method. Walls of the mind in the dark chamber. His life took a dramatic turn when he was summoned to Egypt by the Fatimid Caliph al-Hakim to repair the waters of the Nile. When he saw that the task was engineeringly impossible, he feared the caliph's temper. To escape his wrath, Ibn al-Haytham feigned madness and was kept under house arrest for 10 years. In the silence of his imprisonment, in a room darkened against the harsh Egyptian sun, the innovative world was born. He saw a small beam of light passing through a tiny pinhole in his shutter. reflecting an image of the outside world onto the opposite wall in a different way. This was the camera obscura, al-Bayt al-Muslim. Through systematic experiments, he proved that light moves in linear lines and that vision occurs not because of rays exiting the eye, but because light reflecting off objects comes into contact with the eye. This was not just the correction of an optical problem. This was the birth of the scientific method. He established the methods we still teach today. 1. Explain a clear problem. 2. Formulate a hypothesis based on observation. 3. Subject the hypothesis to testing through a reproducible experiment. 4. Report the results using mathematics. 5. Doubt everything, even yourself. The philosophy of doubt, inquiry. Ibn al-Haytham's greatest discovery was not physical, but psychological. He realized that the human mind is fundamentally unreliable. Our eyes could be deceived by mirrors, water, and shadows. Our brains were biased toward the facts we already believed. In his masterpiece, Kitab al-Manazir, the Book of Optics, he expressed it this way: the seeker after truth is not one who studies the writings of the ancients and, following his natural disposition, puts his trust in them, but rather the one who suspects his faith in them and questions what he gathers from them, the one who submits to argument and demonstration. He argued that the greatest disaster for knowledge was not ignorance, but arrogance, that pride which prevents a scholar from admitting they could be wrong. For Ibn al-Haytham, science was a moral discipline. Seeking the truth was an act of profound tolerance. If the evidence required it, you had to be willing to kill your own theories. The mathematical universe. Before Ibn al-Haytham, physics and mathematics were mostly seen as separate fields. Physics was the study of nature, usually qualitative, while mathematics was the study of abstract numbers. Al-Haytham filled this gap sufficiently. He emphasized that any physical theory must find its equivalent in the language of mathematics. He used geometry to ground the reflection of light, Alhazen's problem, and studied atmospheric refraction. By doing this, he paved the way completely for the later works of Johannes Kepler and Sir Isaac Newton. Newton's famous quote about standing on the shoulders of giants usually refers to European authorities. However, the ground those giants stood upon was leveled and paved 7 centuries earlier by the diligent logic of a man from Basra. Society. Knowledge and power. Ibn al-Haytham also understood that a society is shaped by how it uses its mind. He warned that a civilization would begin to perish when it stops questioning. He observed that blindly following authority leads to an intellectual impasse. Choosing dogmas over evidence blunts justice. The fear of being wrong is the killer of progress. He saw science not just as a reflection of facts, but as a wall against manipulation. If a person can be taught to analyze evidence objectively, they cannot be easily misled by the illusions of power or psychological operations. A modern voice. A warning from the past. Looking at our world today, Ibn al-Haytham's warnings sound terrifyingly familiar. We live in a period where information reaches us at the speed of light, yet truth feels more sorrowful than ever. Digital illusion. We are intertwined with deepfakes, algorithmic bubbles, and alternative facts. Cognitive bias. Our brains still look for the path of least resistance, preferring the comfort of a lie over the labor of doubt. The crisis of authority. We struggle to distinguish the voice of the crowd from the signal of the evidence. If Ibn al-Haytham were still alive, he would likely be unimpressed by our smartphones but deeply concerned by our thoughts. He would tell us that truth is found not only by the eye, but by the method. He would remind us that we lost the truth not because it disappeared, but because we abandoned the difficult phase of questioning. He would say that we sacrificed the meticulous and slow process of verification to the quick dopamine hit of being right. Conclusion: an eternal legacy. Ibn al-Haytham's legacy does not reside in a single invention or discovery. Even though he laid the foundation for the camera, the telescope, and perhaps the glasses you are wearing right now, his true legacy is his way of existing in the world. It is the mind that says, "Prove it." It is the heart that says, "I might be wrong." It is the mysterious spirit that understands the universe is a puzzle that can only be solved through patience, mathematics, and an unshakable commitment to evidence. He taught us that light is not just an organ that allows us to see, but also a foundation for the mind itself. Without the light of the scientific method, we are all falling in a dark room, claiming to know the shapes of the furniture. Ibn al-Haytham stepped out of that darkness in a hurry and taught us how to light the lamp. He showed us that the most qualified tool in the universe is not the eye, but the skeptical and disciplined human mind. A final idea for the reader. As you navigate the wide and often misleading landscape of the 21st century, remember that lonely man in Cairo. Remember the man who changed the direction of the universe in a tiny hole in a shutter. The next time you're certain of something, stop. Question your opinion. Doubt your bias. Look for evidence. Because, as Ibn al-Haytham proved, the truth is mostly not what it first appears to be. Civilizations reach their peak through the power of questioning and collapse under the weight of their certainties. If this journey to the origins of light and logic has created a new perspective for you, then his mission continues through you. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and never stop searching for the light. If you support us by subscribing to our channel and liking the video, we can meet in other minds. Stay healthy.